Abba Yahuah, I just want to praise you and I just want to thank you for this day, and I thank you for this month that we are in, this month of Chesvan, this month of understanding the tribe of Manasseh, as we are going to look deeper into the understanding of this tribe and how this tribe is part of the end times, and in that which we are doing, in how you're raising up this tribe of Manasseh at the moment. As Ephraim plays an important role, so it is with Manasseh, as Manasseh is part of Joseph, and Joseph also carries great promises that come from your word, as being a firstborn child that came from the firstborn of Rachel. And he truly is the one that is representing, because Ephraim was representing the house of Israel, and that is why out of that side, out of Joseph, who was one that bore these children in Egypt, and that is why it's going to represent the house of Israel, because the house of Israel are those that went into the dispersion, those that would have intermingled themselves among the nations and went astray, and they are the ones that have gone into sun god worship and all of this, but now need to come back into the house, come back into the fullness, reject the ways of Egypt, and come back into the fullness of the house. And so, Abba, I just want to praise you, and I just want to thank you that you alone will speak to my mind and speak through my lips, the very oracles that will come from your heart, so that we may be able to have the deeper revelation of that which you are wanting to say to us in this month of Chesvan, of where we are in a strategic time, where this is just the time after the fall feasts, after the time that we have just had all these feast celebrations, and how we are preparing ourselves in the new season that we are in now, preparing ourselves for the next lot of season, for the next lot of feasts, for this season that we are in, of the next 5 or 6 months that we find ourselves in. And Abba, I just pray that even as we embark on this journey, even as we've embarked into this month, that you are the one that goes before us, that you are the one that will reveal to us your purposes and your plans, for us to have the fullness of the understanding of how the enemy will come and attack us in our minds. And we need to get past the broken record of the things that we do not want to let go of the things that we do not want to surrender, because we are still holding on to the past. And Father, this is a time now in this month that we draw a line in the sand and step over into the new thing that you're wanting to do in our lives, that we will truly walk in the fullness of that which you have for us. And so I just want to thank you, Father, that you will speak to my mind and speak through my lips the very oracles that come from you. Father, I pray that it will be wisdom and knowledge that you will speak, and nothing of myself. In Yahushua's name I pray this. Hallelujah. And so I'm wanting to be able to share something that I didn't share when I covered Chesvan, because when we understand Chesvan, there's something about the understanding of Chesvan that we need to be able to speak about a harvest, because I find that this is where a lot of people are in this month, and this is what we're going to find happening. Because remember, we are covering this in the months and the tribe in order to be able to see it as a prophetic understanding of that which we will face in this month. of that which is going to be coming in our lives in this month. And we are not to be surprised, and we are not to be caught off guard. And why has the Father given us this understanding? Why have we covered every one of these months? We have covered this for the last 11 months, and we are now on the last month covering this, so that once we enter into the months that we have already looked at, we will understand the full revelation. We will understand the full picture of what the Father is wanting to show us for that month prophetically, because this is a timeline that we are on, and every one of these tribes and every one of these months will play out every month. So therefore it is a timeline for us to understand what it is that the Father is wanting to reveal to us in this month, so that the enemy doesn't catch us off guard, so that we can be able to stand and say, wait a second, okay, so what is it that really happens in this month of Chesvan that is going to be able for me to understand that when things are going to happen in my life in this month, I must understand that the enemy is going to come in like a flood. But how does the Father raise a standard against him? The Father raises us above what the enemy will do by giving us the discernment, by giving us the revelation, by giving us the understanding of his word, so that we can be one step ahead of the enemy. And this is why this is a prophetic understanding, so that we can go into every month. We have laid this out. We have laid out these foundations, so that from next month, when we've already covered the tribe of Benjamin, we will be able to then understand, okay, what am I looking for in this time of the tribe of Benjamin? What is this month about that I need to understand is about this month, so that I can prepare myself? And this is what the Father is wanting, for us to be able to be one step ahead and join him on a prophetic timeline, in order to be able to walk out every month, preparing ourselves, because the teachings are there now, and therefore we can just know how to pray in this month. Because just in this week alone, I have already had 3 people that are going through exactly what this month is about, being able to move past the things that the enemy keeps wanting to bring in our lives, to keep us like a broken record, willing around in the things in our mind. And so this month of Chesvan is a month of, this is what I want to talk about, because with every season there is a fruit harvest. So understand, there was a harvest that was having to be brought to the Father, because we will prepare ourselves now, as we are preparing ourselves for the next 5-6 months until we come into the time of the month of Aviv, when the new year begins. We bring in our barley harvest, and then we have a wheat harvest. And this was the fruit harvest. But it's interesting, because the fruit harvest that really comes in the time of Chesvan is the olive harvest, because the olives, and this was so amazing, because when we were in the land now, that's exactly what we saw. We saw a lot of the olive trees were now, a lot of the olives were starting to, a lot of them were getting ripe. They were starting to go dark. They were starting to go black. And then it's time for this fruit harvest of the olives, when they are ripe and they are dark. So this is a time of the olive harvest. And so when we think of the olive harvest, how is the olive going to be able to be harvested? And this is what we've got to understand, that this is a process of where the olives now need to be able to be picked. And what goes into the reaping of the harvest of the olive trees is going to be the shaking of the trees, is going to be able to be the beating of the trees, where you're hitting those olives in order to be able to fall to the ground. And some of them you can pick straight away, but you start to shake that tree, because then those ripe olives start falling to the ground. And for those that are stubborn enough to not want to fall, they are going to be beaten with a stick. They're going to be hit until they fall to the ground. And then Once they are taken from there, they are going to go through an olive press. And this olive press is really known as the bruising. You know, it's when we've got to go through the bruising. So this whole process of this whole olive picking and bringing in the harvest is going to be part of a bruising. It's going to be part of this reaping of this olives, and it's going to go through this bruising. And this is the bruising that it's going to have to go through the olive press in order for it to squeeze the hard olives that are not maybe 100% because, when you want to bring the harvest in, some of them might not be yet at the place that they as ripe, but they got to be shaken off the tree and beaten off the tree. And so they are going to have to go through this bruising of the olive press in order to be able to bring them and squeeze the olive oil out of it so that it can be able to come and bring the olive oil. And this is going to be the crushed and bruised. They're going to be crushed and they're going to be bruised in this olive press. And this is sometimes where we can find ourselves in this month. We can find ourselves in a hard place, and we can find ourselves in great pain, because it's great pain when we're going to be beaten. It's great pain when we're going to be bruised by going through an olive press. It causes us pain. It causes us a lot of pain. But the Father is wanting to be able to bring an olive oil out of us. And for us to be able to have olive oil, there's not going to be an easy process of going through an olive oil if the olives are not going to go through this press. It's going to have to go through the crushing and the bruising. And there is many people at the moment where their lives just feel out of control because there are things that are going on that is bringing some deep pain in their lives. And the sooner we yield to the process, the sooner we're not going to be stubborn in the process, because those olives that are not wanting to fall to the ground shaking are going to have to be beaten because of the hardness of the heart. So we will understand this in the tribe of Manasseh when we have a look at the palm tree. The palm tree needs to bend and go with the wind. If it wants to resist, it will break. And so this is why the Father is wanting to be able to get us to go through this place of where we are to understand that in this month of Chesvan, we are in this time of when it might be a little bit more than usual of an olive press, where Father is really wanting to bring this olive oil, this choicest virgin olive oil out of us, and where we are to produce a harvest. We are to be able to bring Him the fruit of our lives. And it's all going to depend whether we are going to just, when the shaking comes, if we are not going to be able, when the shaking comes, we need to shake into position, or else we're going to shake out of control. And this is why the Father wanted me to share this about the harvesting of the olives, because the olives, it's through the olives and the harvesting of the olives that comes the olive oil. And it's interesting because this is the month that when Yahushua comes, it's from this month that then we will go and reign and rule with Him in this month. But we will have had to go through a shaking, through a process, because it's like I said, the Father wants a fruit harvest. Because when we sit at our sukkah, we are to bring Him a fruit harvest. We are to bring Him the fruit of our harvest. And this is what He wants. He wants the dates. He wants the pomegranates. He wants the figs. He wants the fruit harvest. He wants the olives. But for that fruit to be able to be used as a first fruits offering for him, it's going to have to go through its process. So I just felt that this is part of what I needed to share, because there are a lot of people that at this point in time, like I said to you, I am at the moment, I'm having to walk a path with some people in this week alone that are really feeling the pressure of this olive press, because we've gonna have to get past the place of understanding. We've got to walk in the victory. We can't keep going around. The enemy knows our weaknesses. The enemy knows the things that are there that will trigger us. And that is why in this month, he's wanting us to be able to raise up above those circumstances and start to put our eyes on Yahushua, to understand, be still and know that he is Yahuah, the one who's going to take you through. And so let's go look at this tribe of Manasseh, that we may be able to go. And now we're going to look at this tribe of Manasseh, which is the tribe that it's Manasseh and Joseph, because when Jacob spoke and he said to Joseph, they will be my sons as Reuben and Simeon are. So they will be part of the house. They would not be Joseph's children. They would be part of the lineage that comes from Jacob. And they would be part of the fullness of the house of Israel. Because Jacob was going to represent the house of Israel. So they were going to be part of the fullness of that house. So there are times that in the word it's going to speak about Joseph, as Joseph being alone. There are times it speaks about Joseph and Ephraim, and there's other times it speaks about when they were situated around the tabernacle. Joseph didn't feature. Joseph was a tribe that was split between Manasseh and Ephraim. But then when we look in Revelation chapter 7, when the Father is going to seal off the 12 tribes, Ephraim is not mentioned, but instead it's Joseph and Manasseh that's being mentioned. Because I truly believe that Ephraim was already made up of all the tribes, because Ephraim was then seen as the 10 tribes of the house of Israel that came under Jeroboam. But now, when you see, there will still be a portion of Ephraimites that are true Ephraimites that will be able to be part of the house, but they will be integrated into Joseph and then there's Manasseh. So sometimes it can be confusing, but we will understand that in the end, the Father is going to be able to have, in the end, he's going to have a house that there will be the fullness of these two tribes will become one house under Joseph. So let us go read from Genesis chapter 41. And we're going to read from verses 50 and 51. And it says, and to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of scarcity of food came, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bore to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For Yahuah has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. So here we see Manasseh means one who makes to forget, one who lets you forget the suffering, and the Father's house, replacement and substitute. That's the whole meaning of it. It's to forget the suffering, and the Father's house, replacement, substitute. So it's one who makes you forget, one who lets you forget the suffering. So this is the problem that the enemy keeps, where many of us in the body of Messiah, not just when it comes to Manasseh, but we're going to read about Manasseh. And as we read about Manasseh, remember, it's more about the understanding. It's not just about the fact that you will be part of this tribe, but it's about the fact that we are to understand the lessons behind each tribe of what the Father's trying to teach us. Because each tribe has a representation of what it is that Yahushua's attributes, because each tribe is a representation of Messiah, and Messiah is seen in each one of these tribes, and it has an attribute of Messiah Yahushua. So imagine if he were to want revenge for what everybody did to him. They didn't accept him. They then beat him. They put a crown of thorns on him. I mean, they left him practically scourged. They crucified him. And imagine if he would not have forgiven. But yet, when he hung at the stake, what did he say? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. There is already an attribute coming through of this beautiful tribe to understand that this tribe will go through many things, and it will be hurt, and it has a love for people, but they will be hurt, and it will destroy those of the tribe of Manasseh if they're not going to let go of their past. So this is a month that we are in, where we really have to draw a line in the sand and say, let the past in the past. Don't let me continue to go down that broken record already. Don't let me be able to continue to go down that place where the enemy is continuously, the enemy will not stop with you, beloveds. Because if the enemy can get you to get so focused on the things of the past, you know, I'll never forget when I was at church, this is how they explained it to us. If you are driving your car, going into the future, looking into your rearview mirror, how are you ever going to get to your destination? You can never get to your destination while constantly looking in your rearview mirror. You can't be constantly looking your rearview mirror into what is going on behind you. You can look in it now and then, but you have to focus on the road ahead. You cannot be driving to your destination in the road ahead, looking in the rearview mirror and driving while looking at the rearview mirror, because what's going on behind is not as important as what is in front of you. Because what's going on behind, you just need to be aware of what's going on around you, but you focus on your destination and where you are going. But how many of us will get stuck in a place where we constantly looking in a rearview mirror, and we will never get to our final destination. And so this is why we must understand, when we look at this meaning of Manasseh, it's basically gaining back of the inner balance in the different circumstances in spite of being separated from the familiar life which has given you happiness. So Joseph was very happy, very, very happy with his family. But he was taken out of the circumstances for a while. For many years, I was under the impression that it was only for a very short period, maybe 2-3 years, but I discovered that it was actually for about 14 years. I was listening to something that a rabbi was busy teaching, and he was saying, because he was comparing these hostages to Joseph's. They were taken away from their circumstances. They went through extreme, difficult time, but now they have a choice as they come out. as they now in freedom to either live their lives in what happened to them in those dark underground tunnels and in everything that they had to endure, or like Joseph, they can raise up and say, well, you know what? Maybe the Father wants to use this in my life for a purpose so that I can be a blessing to others. And I was actually listening to a testimony of one of the hostages that was released, and it was amazing to hear how this young man encountered the Father, how he built a relationship with the Father, which blew me away. And now he's giving his testimony to so many people. He was not religious. He was one of the young men, was 20 or 21 when he was taken at that Nova concert, and was not a religious boy at all. Was enjoying himself in his concert, enjoying his life, when he was abducted and taken into this place that he did not want to be. But the whole time he kept one thing in mind: I will go out. I am not going to stay here. I'm going to come out of this place. And the attitude that he had to have while being there made all the difference. So you see, many times on our journey, it's the attitude that we have while we are on the journey that's going to make a difference whether we're going to get there or not. Because when I woke up this morning, that was the message that I woke up to. We are to rejoice in all circumstances, because it's the joy of Yahuah that is my strength. If we find ourselves rejoicing in all our circumstances, even when it is difficult, it's for a purpose and it's for a plan, so that Father can be exalted in that. The Father doesn't say that we are only to exalt Him when everything goes well. As a matter of fact, I think it's even more powerful when we are able to praise Him and worship Him when we are going through the most difficult time, because then we basically hit the enemy in his face, because remember, he was a cherub that was responsible for worship. So when we worship the Father in the most difficult circumstances, can you imagine what that will do to the enemy? And that is what the Father requires of us. So we have to understand that this name of Manasseh is a beautiful name. It will bring encouragement to those who belong to this tribe, who are closely related to understanding what it means to go through hardships and trials and difficulties, but yet make a decision to rise above it. So we are living in times, and we are going to go into times, and that is why this tribe is a prophetic tribe, once again, giving us a prophetic understanding. What are we going to do in the days that are going to come ahead? We are living in times in which we go through many trials, many heartaches, much pain. And so many of us have deep wounds in our spirits. I mean, I keep sitting and I think to myself, can you imagine the trauma of those young men? And this young man would have so much trauma within him, but he's not a man. He's not a young man who's speaking from a place of being traumatized. He's speaking from a place of bringing life. He's giving a message of life. And he's using that which was traumatized for him. The same as Joseph. When Joseph was in that, I mean, you can imagine when he was in that prison for 14 years. I mean, imagine what was going through his mind. Well, you know what? Maybe if I hadn't said what I said to my brothers, maybe if I didn't speak about the dream that I had, what was the use of me having to have gone through, telling them all about this dream? Where's it ever going to take place? I'm sure we all go through that. I go through that. And we beat ourselves up and I shouldn't have said that. And maybe if I didn't say that, and maybe if I didn't do this, and maybe if I'd done something differently. I'm sure Joseph went through exactly the same. While sitting there in that prison. Maybe, I landed up in this. I did what the Father asked me to do. I didn't touch Potiphar's wife. And look at what befell me. Look at what came on my path. And how many of us is like that? We do what the Father tells us to do. We are obedient to the Father. We serve the Father no matter what. And what happens? The enemy still takes his best shot at us, and he throws everything that he can at us. And all we're doing is trying to be faithful to the Father, trying to hold on. And we don't deny him, and we stay faithful. And so that's why I'm saying we can go through many things, and we have wounded spirits. We have a wounded soul within us. Our mind, our will, our emotions are wounded because of our past experiences, because of tragedies, because of things that we've had to suffer. Some of us have been wounded that already came in our mother's womb. Because we have suffered rejection. Maybe we suffered rejection in our mother's womb because we were unwanted. Imagine a child in his mother's womb who maybe tried to abort the child, but the abortion didn't go through. And that child has now been born with this whole thing. Can you just imagine? And that scars in their soul, man. Imagine that they've come into a mother's womb under circumstances where it was a difficult circumstance and they were rejected and unwanted. And then there are those that maybe have suffered rape. They've been beaten, abused. There are maybe those that have been in cruelty of war, like these hostages now. There are those that have maybe been through abusive relationships with husbands and wives and abusive relationships. The world is full of scarred people. I don't think you can get one person on this earth that doesn't have scarring. We all have scars. But I'm coming to understand that there is a place that we're going to have to come to say, okay, so I went through all of this. I've repented, I've forgiven, I've released, I've done everything, but now it's time to move on. I can't keep licking these wounds. I can't keep feeling sorry for myself. I can't keep sitting in the place of saying, you don't understand what I've been through. You don't understand, what has been done to me. And the devil wants us to continue to look in our rearview mirror and hold on to the things of our past in order to be able to use that against us, in order to destroy us, so that we don't ever fulfill the destiny and the call that we have been destined to fulfill for the Father. Because woe is me. I'm going to keep licking my wounds and say, but you don't understand. This is what I have to go through, and this is what I've gone through, and this is what's happening. Beloveds, this is going to be a part of our lives until the day that we are going to be with Yahushua. There's always going to be something that's going to give us an opportunity to lick our wounds, because we have many. But we have choices to make in everything. We have a choice to make. There was something that I heard on Sunday that just ministered to me when this man spoke, and he said, there are many things that we are praying about that we should actually take authority over. We should actually just take authority. We have to speak to ourselves and say, wake up, get out of this place. What are you doing? How long are you going to sit there and allow the enemy to crush you? How long are you going to sit there and allow the devil to be able to put his foot on your head? How long are you going to allow that? How long are you going to allow yourself to be able to stay in this place where you are going to be able to be going around and around, beating yourself up about the same thing? Maybe because it could be Because you are in a relationship that maybe it's a difficult relationship. Maybe you're in a job where people in the job are making it difficult for you. Maybe you're in a position of where something happened in your past that you just can't let go of. Beloveds, the Father says, draw a line. It's time for you to get over it. Joseph himself suffered rejection by his own family. Today I was actually going down that memory lane. I was actually sharing something with someone, and as I was sharing with them, I remembered what my own mom and my dad did to me because of me serving the Father. The persecution that I came under through my own family in my own house. This is what I was being reminded of. And I thought, wow, I had even forgotten about that because I've moved on from there. But today, it just came up inside of me where I realized, because I was sharing about something that someone's going through, that just reminded me of what I have been through. But man, if I were to think of my mom and my dad, I don't think of them in that way. I don't think of them of what they put me through, because I understood that was part of the persecution that I was going through because of me serving the Father. Because of me serving Abba Yahuah, they came up against me. Because the enemy was using them to get to me. And so he suffered by his own family. And he went through terrible experiences because of that. But we have to understand that, like the tribe of Manasseh is able to raise up above all of this, like Joseph rose up above this, and he said, what you meant for evil, Abba Father had a purpose in this. Abba Yahuah had a purpose in it, and he meant it for good. Because I was to be able to be used in order to be able to save a nation. So, the miracle of forgiveness that took place in Joseph's heart is impossible to take place if we don't forget. If we don't forget what we went through, how are we ever going to forgive? Because it's the forgetting that's the difficult part. Because it's like a broken record. We have to get past the place of remembering constantly, like a broken record, what that person did to you, what that person said to you. Believe me, I understand this so well. I went through this tormenting thing for more than a year, almost 2 years, going down this broken record of this constantly remembering these things, until one day I made the decision to say, it's enough. It's enough. So, the spirit of Manasseh is the ability to forgive and not hold a grudge. So, this is the spirit behind the tribe of Manasseh. They are able to forgive and not hold a grudge, because that's what happened with Joseph. What could Joseph have done to his brothers as being second in charge of the land? What could Joseph have done to his brothers? Joseph could have really played games with them. He could have really been very nasty to them. He could have had all of them killed. He could have had all of them put to death. He could have thrown them all in prison and let them go through sitting in prison for as long as what he did. He could have done that. But that was not the heart of Joseph. So why do we hold grudges? Why are we holding grudges against people that have done things to us and we're not willing to let it go? So, if one is a Manassite, if one is one that is a Manassite, and cannot forgive, then he will never reach his true calling. But that goes for all of us. This is what the tribe of Manasseh is wanting to teach us today. If we are not willing to forgive, if we are not willing to let go of those grudges, we will never reach our true calling. Why? Because Satan will keep us in that place to constantly remind us of the hurts that we have suffered in the past, and therefore we will never enter into perfection. Just like one that is a Manasseh can never come into the fullness of their destiny and their call, because they're not willing to forgive and to forget. You know, I know people that will say, I forgive, but I will never forget. Then I'm sorry, you have never forgiven. If you cannot forget, if you cannot think about that, and your heart is pure with it, and you don't have any remorse over it, and you don't have any bitterness and hatred and anger in it, then you haven't truly forgiven. Then you better go a little bit more around the mountain. You better be praying a little bit more. You better be asking Father to help you a little bit more. Because some of these things, it takes time. It takes time. Ask me, I know. And one of the ways that you're really going to get rid of it is when you start praying to the people that have praying for the people that offended you, praying for the people that have hurt you. You start to pray for them. You start to bless them. You start to bring them before the Father. You pray for them. You bless them. Everything that you would want to pray for yourself, pray for them. Try that one. Oh, that's difficult. I don't want to pray that for that person, Father. Actually, you know what? I would want them to suffer. But that's not the heart of Abba Yahuah. And when we finally get to that place, guess what? The one who's going to be set free is you, not that person. Father knows how to deal with the person, but you are in turn going to be set free. And so this is how those of the tribe of Manasseh will achieve this high place in the Father when they are willing to forgive and to forget, and then they will come into the fullness of their call. They will be able to minister to thousands and reach out to save nations as well as their own family, which is exactly what Joseph was able to do. And that's why I'm saying, yes, we're working through the tribes, beloveds. But this, as we work through these tribes, each one of these, the attributes that's in these tribes, everything that is in these tribes pertains to all of us, of what it is that we've got to go through. So many times, because the Manasseh is sentimental and deeply fond of a certain individual or certain individuals, he's more easily hurt than other tribes. It's very difficult because Joseph was his own brothers that he would have been fond of, that he would have been close to, that he would have looked up to his older brothers. These were his older brothers, and he looked up to them. So he will love with a great and deep love and become very attached to maybe one individual. And then when that one offends or disappoints him, it is almost impossible for the Manasseh to get over it. And that is why it's going to have to take deep work of the Father. Because many times he just files it in his little computer and says, I will never trust that person again. If that is what you are saying for someone who has done something to you, and then you can say, well, I will never trust that person again. We have to be cautious, but we have to release. And, you know, we can't build walls around ourselves. And this is why we have a lot of pain and a lot of hurt in our lives, because we will say things like, I will never allow myself to go down that again. But you know what? Just around the corner, the same thing is happening again, because the Father wants us to be able to overcome. We either react to things or we respond to things, and the Father wants us, until we can respond to something and we don't react to something, we will keep writing the same test. The same test will come our way over and over again until we eventually respond and don't react. You know, when we react to a medication, so say now you take something and you have a reaction, it's not a good reaction. But if you take something and it responds to your body, it's a good, favorable thing. So the Father, when something comes our way and we react to it, it's not going to be good for us, because it just means you're about to write the test again. But when we respond the way the Father wants us to respond, well, then we've overcome a test. And now it's all of a sudden that thing doesn't come around your life again. Or if it does, you learn to react to it. You learn to respond to it and not to react to it. So if we just file things and we don't raise above it, the Father is calling us to raise above the temptation and weaknesses, to be able to not only forget and forgive, but to call others to forgive and forget, so that they together may be able to gain back their inner balance in different circumstances and adjust themselves to a new life, which they must live in spite of being separated from that which they have learned to love, which has given them so much happiness in the past. I mean, imagine, today I was actually reading something that came up on my phone. Here is this man, one of the hostages. He came out, I think it was in February this year. And he had his wife and his children, both his daughters and his wife, murdered. They were killed and he was taken hostage. And when he came out, he had lost his wife and his 2 children, 2 daughters. So he was taken hostage, and he came out to what life? And now I was reading today that he went through this trauma healing, and there was this woman doctor that is a psychiatrist, whatever she is, one that was helping him with the trauma healing. And now the 2 of them have fallen in love. And, you know, he's got an opportunity to once again have someone in his life that has come. So, you know, beloveds, if we just trust the Father, it's like I had to say to a friend of mine yesterday, who was really, really reminiscing over all her past things, and that she shouldn't have done this, and if she didn't do this, and if she didn't do that, and, you know, all of these things. And I had to turn around and say to her, my sister, if you didn't go to the place of where you say you shouldn't have been and you shouldn't have been part of this and this, I said, then we would have never met. I wouldn't have been part of your life. But you have been such a blessing in my life, and I have been a blessing in your life, and we wouldn't have had our friendship. And I said to her, just like Joseph, I said to my sister, understand something. Father's not finished with your story. He's still building your story. He's still busy writing your testimony. But you're already wanting to throw in the towel. You're looking at your circumstances where you are right now and trying to make sense of your life and trying to eliminate this and trying to... What difference does it make for you to turn around and stand looking at your past and saying, well, you know what, maybe if I would have done this differently and not said this and not done that and not gone there and not been part of this and not been part of that ministry or whatever, you know, my life would have been better. How about saying, wow, all things work together for good For those that love Yahuah and are called according to his purpose. How about saying that? How about looking at the circumstances and saying, well, Father, you know what? I don't really understand what I'm going through at the moment. I've been praying and I've repented and I've prayed and I've done everything I know to do and my circumstances are not changing, Father. What about if he's still writing your story? What about if you were just to say, well, Father, you know what? All things work together for good for those that love you and are called according to your purpose. And Father, you know what? I'm going to choose to worship you and I'm going to choose to praise you. I'm not going to choose to think about what would have been and what should have been and what could have been if whatever. And instead of me taking my energy doing all of that, I'll take my energy in focusing on you and loving you and worshiping you and praising you through all of this, because I know that you have a call on my life. I know that you have a destiny and a plan for me. And I know that I'm going to get there despite what I'm going through right now. That's the way that we need to look at it. Because I cannot climb in the pit with you. I need to throw you a rope and take you out of where you are. And that is what those of the tribe of Manasseh are called to do. They're called to be able to come to the place of saying, forget the past. Forgive the person. Get over. Stop holding on to those grudges. Stop holding on to the things of your past, because it's not going to help you. Let it go. Come into the fullness of that which the Father's got for you to be able to come into. So, we need to understand something, that the Father is wanting us to be able to, just as we are working through this tribe of Manasseh and understanding what are the characteristics behind this tribe, and how do we see Messiah speaking to us through this tribe in saying, enough is enough. So if we look at the tribe of Manasseh, they are people that are loyal. They are faithful friends, and they're not easily fooled by a lot of flattery and artificial friendliness, because they understand they've gone through much. You can't sit and fool them with your fake way. They're not going to be flattered, because they're real people. And they look over a situation and pass judgment in a few minutes. That's it. Because you're not going to pull the wool over their eye. They've been through a lot of suffering in their lives. They've gone through so many things. They understand life. And they understand to be able to look at things. They look at a situation. So, when a person of Manasseh has made up his mind, that's it. He knows, because he understands the situation. He reads situations. That's why they're going to make excellent warriors in these last days, because they can analyze a situation and they go to battle. And they don't war in the flesh. They go to war in the spirit. So, it's very difficult when they see the falsehood and they see these things, but Abba is able to give them his love. And they can see their neighbor in the spirit through the love of the Father and have the compassion of Messiah Yahushua. But you cannot pull the wool over their eyes, because they will snuff it out for what it is. And they will judge a situation very quickly. But the Father will be able to come and put that compassionate love and a compassionate heart in them, for them to be able to help people and walk with people. So when Abba brings a perfected Manassite into our lives, we are immediately comforted by that beautiful, loyal friendship, which brings comfort to our hearts and balance back into our lives, after we have suffered the hurts of the separation of those whom we love and whom we have lost. So they come as a gift into people's lives that have sometimes gone through a lot of suffering and a lot of pain, and they've got all this hurt and brokenness that is there. And one of the tribe of Manasseh can come in there and bring comfort and ease, and to be able to bring this, help the person that is in this place of suffering and hurt. So the Father needs to raise up these, this tribe of Manasseh, bringing up these people from this tribe into our lives, to raise above our yesterdays and looking into a glorious future as being able to conquer the kingdom for Abba Yahuah. They are those that can really help people to overcome their suffering, their pain, because their name, the name of this tribe is to, causing to forget. It's to be able to forget all my toil, all that I went through. And that is what they will be able to do. So praise Abba Yahuah. We will continue on Shabbat, and we thank you, Abba Father, that you alone will be able to do a deep work in us, and let us be like Manasseh in this month, that is able to release, that is able to forget, that is able to move past our hurts, our pains, our wounds, the things that are there, and that we can become a Manassite to others, to help them to overcome in their lives where they are also stuck and not being able to move forward to fulfill the destiny and the plan that you have for them. So, Father, I thank you for this teaching in Yahushua's name. Hallelujah.